Alright, so this is going to be lab number 12. We'll be going over the service endpoint feature in a virtual network and use storage account firewalls to control which VNet subnet have access to the storage account. Now, service endpoint provides a direct connection from your VNet subnet to your storage service. Now, there are different kinds of service endpoint for different Azure services. All of them allows you to go directly to these cloud services without going through the public internet. All right, so with Lab 12, we're going to start by creating the virtual network. All right, create a virtual network. We'll be defining two subnets. One will be made one will be a public subnet, the other one will be a private subnet. So let's actually go back for a minute. So we need to make sure this is renamed. All right, so let's rename this to the public. All right. Now, public. Good enough. All right. So let's create this. All right. Now we're going to go to the VNet subnet and define another one. And this will be the private subnet. All right. So for this private subnet, it'll be 10.01/24. Now we do want the service endpoint so it can have direct single digit latency access to the storage account. All right. Don't have any service endpoint policies, select OK. All right. So task number 3, we're going to set up network security group to control access to the subnet. So we're going to create a new resource. Network security group. And this network security group will apply to the private subnet. Now in this NSG, we're going to add an outbound rule. That allows our virtual network access to the storage service. So the destination will be a service tag, and the service tag will be our Azure storage. Right. So this will be an explicit allow rule. All right, I'm going to add another outbound rule that denies the access to the internet. So the virtual network that this will be associated with will be blocked of internet access, and this will be a deny, and this will be prioritized right after the 100. Now we're going to add an inbound rule that allows RDP from anywhere. Follow the instructions. All right, so now we have the rule laid out. We are going to associate that with our subnet. Now, once again, these NSGs and the VNet all have to be in the same region. So if your drop-down box doesn't show your virtual network, make sure you go back and select the right region. All right. So once that's done, we're going to create another. We're going to create a storage account. All right, locally redundant storage. All right, and make sure this is created in the same region as your VNet. All right, so we're going to configure some protection for the storage account. So now the storage account is created. Let's navigate to, before we configure the virtual network and firewall, we are going to create a file share. So here's the file service and here's the file share, and we want to add a new file share. All right. Now, along with the file share, you'll want to write down the PowerShell script because we'll need this to map a drive. All right, now we have that information. Close that. Back to storage account, you're going to find a section called Firewalls and Virtual Networks. Okay, we're going to say only selected network should have access to the storage account. So I'm going to select Add Existing Virtual Network. And the subnet. So we want to make sure private subnet has access to it, not the public. All right, so we're going to deploy 2 virtual machines. One machine to each of the subnet. All right. And make sure the disk is just standard HDD is fine. Now, in the network, be very careful. We're going to have to select my virtual network and make sure it is in the private subnet. All right. We're going to give it a public IP, and no security group applied directly to the NIC. We're going to test the subnet NSG. All right. I'm going to keep everything at default here. Create that. All right, once it's on its way, we're going to create a second virtual machine, but on the public subnet. All right, so this is just a repeat. Okay, so make sure we deploy this to the public subnet. Okay, so keep everything at default. All right, go ahead and create that. All right, so it looks like our private VM is ready. I'm going to go to virtual machines and make a connection to the private VM. All right, so it's now logging into this private VM. We're going to try to run that PowerShell to see if we are able to make a file share connection. All right, so we're going to fire up the PowerShell ISE. All right, so we're going to click on the script to expand the script section, paste our copied script, and let's go ahead and run script. All right, so now it connected Z drive, so we know this is a success. All right, so next we're going to test if accessing to a web location is allowed. All right, so I'm going to do a test net connection. Our NSG should block this outbound connection. So what this tells us is for us to access that storage account, we must be not going out to the internet. So we must be using some sort of internal access, which in this lab, we're using the service endpoint, essentially the dedicated private connection to our storage account. So this test connection eventually will bail out. All right, so you see that it's attempting TCP connect, waiting for response, and it will just be blocked. Our next test is for the public VM. Because our storage account did not allow the public subnet to connect to any of the services. So if we connect to the VM that's deployed to the public subnet, mapping the drive should fail. All right, so making a connection to the public VM. Alright, so in this public VM, we're going to do the same thing as we did before. And we expect this connection to fail because our storage account doesn't have this subnet as an allow subnet to consume its service. And we're going to say run script. So it's trying to verify connectivity. Alright, so it looks like it's able to successfully connect, so that means we've done goofed somewhere along the line. So let me minimize this and find out how we goofed. So let's go back to storage account. On the storage account, let's make sure that I actually did remember click on the save button. Yep. So I did do the select network, I did add existing virtual network, and if you rewind this video, you'll probably see me forgetting to click on the save. Why? I don't know. So add that, make sure you click on save. Alright, now I'm going to disconnect the Z drive and try again. Alright, so trying the second time, I should get access is denied. So that's a good sign. Does that mean we rigged the first exercise? I'm not so sure, so let's go back to the VM. Let's disconnect this one as well and rerun the script and see if we actually rigged this exercise. Hopefully not. So I'm going to disconnect that. And I'm going to try to rerun the script. Yep. I did disconnect it. Come on now. Alright, you know what? I'm going to change that to W drive. How's that? Alright, so notice my private VM can still connect. My public VM is not. Alright, one last test. The public VM should have no problem getting to the internet because there is no outbound rules that blocks it. Alright, so test ping returns almost immediately. Alright, so connectivity is just fine. Alright, so this is the wrap for lab number 12. Don't forget to clean up after this.